So, good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. It's a happy Friday, I guess. It's a beautiful, warm day outside. So, make sure that you get outside and experience nature today. Of course, keeping social distancing and everything. Just checking in first. How's everyone feeling? Everyone okay? I know Cyrus is feeling a little down today. He's got a bit of a tummy bug. Hope you feel better, but it's good to see your smiley face here.
Besides my foot, I'm fine.
All right. So a few announcements first before we get going. So we're really opening this service up to anyone that wants to get involved with online science lessons while schools are closed and things like that. So next week we're probably going to have some kids from DC join us. I'm also reaching out to some of my colleagues in New York City and other places around the world. So feel free to invite your friends, share the word that we're providing the service, and would love to have as many people join us as possible. We have a great list. We have a great speaker today, who I'll introduce in a minute. And we also have a great list of speakers next week as well. We've got some creative writing happening on Tuesday. So Kevin Maurer from Cape Fear Collective, who has a background in journalism and communication, he'll be joining us and helping us out, teaching us about science communication and how to write a story in science. We have a friend of mine from grad school, Josh Stone. He's going to be talking about his work down in Antarctica. So that's going to be a really good one. I'm going to do some coding also. Thursday, we're going to do some science art and science illustration. So one of my friends from Montreal is going to come and give an art lesson on scientific illustration. And on Friday next week, we have Bill Darrow joining us. He's a great supporter of YSA, and he's a civil engineer based up in DC. So he's going to be talking to us about engineering. And we also have a cooking lesson with Rihanna. So it is a lot of exciting opportunities next week. So please spread the word and come join us. The other thing that we're doing too is we're providing homework help for everyone. And there are two ways that you can get help with homework. We're going to be setting up in the afternoons between 1 and 3 o'clock, roughly around those times. There's going to be Zoom meetings for homework help with Holly. And all you need to do is just log on, ask the question, and hopefully Holly will answer it. If she can't, I'll try. We'll reach out to our friends and colleagues and see if we can help you out with your homework. Math, science, English, history, got it covered. My friend in Montreal is going to help out with French if you have French questions. And of course, she's fluent in French as well. So she can also communicate with our French students. And then we can also handle Spanish. And then we've set up a live chat on our website. So or you need to go between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. Just go to our website, youngscientistacademy.org, and then just go onto the live chat and you can ask your homework questions there. So I know there's a lot of information there. We're trying to make this as helpful for all of you that are enclosed in your bedrooms or whatever. But let's try and make this a fun experience. So any questions on that from the group? And these services I'm going to offer also to college kids as well. Right, Aaron? Okay. So without further ado, I am going to introduce our guest speaker today. Hang on, I'm just doing a couple of things here. First, let's do before we go any further, if everyone could mute their microphones, please. That would be great. For some reason, I'm seeing Itsel's video on the screen. Anyway, okay. All right, so I want to introduce everyone to Dr. Aaron Burge from Coastal Carolina. So welcome, Aaron.
Thank you.
So Aaron and I were in grad school together up at VIMS, right? Mm-hmm. There was some overlap there.
Yeah, definitely.
And your postdoc, was that also at VIMS or?
No, I postdoced at the College of Charleston, the Hollings Marine Lab.
That's right. And then from there, you went to Coastal Carolina, where you are a full professor in marine science.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. And that was a nice picture yesterday on Facebook about the collection of cans and things like that.
Yeah, a little service project that the kids and Courtney and I like to do.
That's good. Excellent. Yeah. Well, keep it up. And I hope you and your family are healthy.
So far, so good.
Yes. Yes. Excellent. Well, good. I'm going to pass it over to you. So do you need me to make you the host?
We can try without that and just see how it goes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'll pass it over to you.
Okay. Well, hi, everybody. I've met a few of you all so far. For the YSA students that are here, a couple of my students from Coastal Carolina University I see are here. We've got Cole, and I saw Carly Anello is here, Sydney Davis, and I think that might be it for coastal people. But my 3 college students and I, along with a bunch of others, have been working on a project for the last several years to look at the fish that are swimming around offshore of North Carolina and South Carolina. I wanted to share with you guys today some of what we've been doing with using underwater cameras to look at fish and shark behavior, and just kind of talk to you a little bit about what the ocean looks like off the shores of Cape Fear, North Carolina. So Rob, I don't necessarily have anything specific planned, but I have kind of a PowerPoint thing that we can look at some parts of.
Yeah.
I can play video, I can answer questions, kind of up to you.
Yeah, why don't you start with a little PowerPoint if you have it. I would encourage all my students to ask lots of questions. Obviously videos are good. And yeah, so
okay.
What I'm looking for is like a discussion. So I want everyone to sort of get involved and ask questions.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I'm going to share this PowerPoint presentation if I can get that to work here. Right here. So are you all seeing a PowerPoint slide up?
Yep, we can give a thumbs up. Everyone can do their Cole. This is what you can do, Cole, is down the bottom there's a reaction button. So you got thumbs up and there you go.
All right, so it should be full screen now. Okay. All right, so actually the name of our project is Shark Cam, which makes it sound pretty exciting at the beginning. But we see a lot more than just sharks offshore here. So I think if we can make this pretty laid back. So I think I'll kind of start talking through what the project's like, where we do this work, and some of the things that we have found so far. But if any of the students want to jump in and ask a question, just do that and we'll make this real easy. Does that sound okay? All right. So for those of you that are, most of you are probably not scuba divers. You probably have really only experienced the ocean from being at the beach or maybe out on a boat. And so I think a lot of times it's pretty difficult to picture what is actually under the waves, or if you're standing on the beach, what you're actually looking at as you look out across the water. From a really broad perspective, we look at the ocean bottom, and at least on the continental shelf, we can divide the bottom up into really two major types. So if you're standing on a soft sandy beach, you're on a soft bottom habitat. If you just follow that sandy beach out onto the continental shelf, you know, it continues for many miles offshore. But interspersed with that soft sand and mud and other things like that are what we call hard bottom structures. And hard bottom structures are simply naturally or human-made made bottoms that have a lot of physical structure to them. So things like rocks and coral reefs, shipwrecks, jetties, even the legs of a lighthouse or a structure, a platform offshore. And what's really important about these hard bottom habitats is that lots and lots of other plants and animals can live attached to hard bottom habitat that aren't normally found on soft bottom habitats. So one of the things that makes these hard bottom habitats particularly interesting and important is that lots of different types of fish make their homes on these hard bottom habitats. So out off of Cape Fear on the continental shelf, what we consider kind of mid-shelf habitats in the depth range of, say, 60 to 150 feet or so of water depth, there's this really diverse group of fishes that live out on these hard bottom habitats. And through the course of this discussion, I'm going to show you guys some videos of really what it looks like out there. One of the things that's particularly important about this group of fish and why we care about them beyond just their beauty is that this is where a lot of our seafood comes from, off the coast of North and South Carolina. So a lot of the fish you're seeing in this picture here on the screen are caught by commercial and recreational fisheries and might end up on your dinner plate one day. I'm going to skip over some of this. This is about a 45-minute full-length talk, Rob. So I'll keep going. And if people have questions, I'm happy to.
So, Aaron, I think it's breaking up a little bit, but can I just jump in? Can you go back to the previous slide from this one? So the lionfish there that's left of screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you'll talk a little bit about this, but maybe you could sort of talk about why this is a unique species. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay? So lionfish are actually one of a very few number of marine fish species that are not native to the Atlantic Ocean. So they were brought here. Hi, Cyrus. They were brought here or accidentally introduced back in the 1980s off of Florida. And lionfish have since spread up into the Carolinas and even farther north from here and all around the Caribbean Sea. They're particularly dangerous in their non-native habitat because they eat just about anything. You're probably familiar with lionfish, at least you've seen them in an aquarium. I can show you a couple videos of them later. They're venomous, and they don't actually use their venom for feeding, but instead for defense. But they're important on these hard bottom habitats that I was talking about earlier because they eat just about everything. And so they represent important competitors for the native fish that are found in these areas.
And then something on this slide here, we actually we've covered this a little bit at YSA.
Oh, cool.
Not necessarily with the oceans, but so North Carolina being it's in a unique location, and the type of climate here is shifting over time. You should ask Joe later on about temperature, long-term temperature in Wilmington while I remember. But we're interested in this idea of tropicalization with plants, right? Because a lot of agriculture here in the Cape Fear region, well, those plants may not do well under a tropical climate moving forward. So finding ways to have tropical plants and whether they grow well under these conditions is is important, right? So it's a similar type of concept to, I think, what you're talking about here with the fish.
Yeah, so as ocean and land temperatures rise, of course, plants and animals are going to respond to those changes in the environment. And one of the things that we've seen here locally, both in North Carolina, really all over the world, but in North Carolina and South Carolina in particular, is a shift in ocean fish habitat toward a more tropical group of fish. And so this is just some data that I didn't collect this data, but data showing the relative abundance of different tropical fishes off the coast of North Carolina between the 1970s and the 1990s. And actually what our project is doing is showing that this is even more intense now than it was in the 1990s. So we've seen a dramatic increase in tropical coral reef fish since the 1970s, 1990 surveys, and we're looking in the 2015 to 2020 range now. So one of the really neat things about this project is that our camera, so if you guys can see the picture here, our camera is permanently installed off the coast of North Carolina in a place called Frying Pan Tower. Now, Frying Pan Tower is kind of an interesting spot in and of itself. I'll show you a picture of it in just a second. And basically, our camera allows us to live stream video from Frying Pan Tower, which is about 35 miles east of Cape Fear, Bald Head Island, live over the web to anybody that wants to watch it. And I'll show you guys that website in a few minutes. And so my students and I use SharkCam, this camera installation, to study the fish populations that are present on these hard bottom habitats. And over time, of course, we can see how those will change. And so this allows us kind of a window into what the sea looks like now and how that will change going forward. So if you're not exactly familiar with where I am and where everybody else is here, so you guys are in Wilmington, which is up here, just north of Cape Fear. Bald Head Island is out here on the coast. I'm over here, and our camera is moored or is located on Frying Pan Tower, about 35 miles offshore. Just to kind of zoom in a little bit, here's Bald Head Island. Frying Pan Tower is out here. And one of the things that's important about this location is that there's a lot of this natural hard bottom habitat in the wider kind of region. So South Carolina is off here to the west, North Carolina to the north and west. And then all of these black spots represent different hard bottom reefs that are found off the coast of North Carolina, North and South Carolina.
Aaron, how deep is it out there?
So out here at the tower, it's only about 50 feet deep. And that's one of the reasons why the camera is where it is that the surrounding waters, so a few miles away from Frying Pan Tower, are over 100 feet deep. But the tower itself sits on kind of an underwater hill that comes fairly shallow. The shoals, which are this kind of darker blue area that stretches offshore, are an area of much shallower water than the surrounding areas over here and to the north and east. So it's only 50 feet. So the tower itself, actually I'll show you a quick video here. Here's the tower as we're approaching on a boat. This is a nice day on the water, as Dr. Rob can tell you. The tower is about 85 feet tall. It's 50 feet to the bottom, so it's about 130 or 140 feet from the top of the tower down to the seafloor. And our camera, which is going into the water there in the background, our camera is moored just about 5 feet above the bottom, and it looks out over this area of hard bottom habitat. So we use solar power to help power the camera itself. That's the back of my head. We use solar power to provide the electricity that we need to power the camera. And then there's a data transmission line that goes up to the top of the tower and then goes over the air via long distance radio back to shore where it gets pumped out, or the data gets streamed out to the world from there.
Aaron, that purple thing that you or your dive buddy was holding,
Mm-hmm.
the little sort of prongs at the end, is that the cable
Mm-hmm.
that connects into the?
Yep.
Yeah, that thing.
So that's the data cable. So we can swap that underwater. That allows us to do maintenance and things like that.
What sort of camera is it?
Yeah, so if I run back here, the camera is designed by a company called View Into the Blue. A dude named Trevor Mendelow is the owner and developer of these cameras. They're 360-degree tilt and pan cameras, so they can basically go around in a circle, move up and down, and also zoom in and out, which allows us to see 360-degree view of what's out there on the bottom. They stream out in HD. The new camera actually that we're going to install this spring will be 4K for the first time, so we'll have even higher resolution. Obviously, data transmission becomes an issue, but we've got pretty robust data transmission out at the tower. You can actually get Wi-Fi there now. So the tower itself is this structure. Historically, it was a U.S. Coast Guard station, and people lived on it year-round. It was used as a navigational aid to help protect shipping and sea traffic from the dangerous shoals to the west. So it's a local landmark for sure in the Cape Fear region. The government, with the advent of GPS, basically we didn't need these types of stations anymore for navigation. And in 2010, the government actually auctioned this structure off, and it was privately bought by a guy named Richard Neal. And Richard has operated the tower for the last 10 years or so.
Aaron, Adeline has a question, and then what
Okay.
I also might do here is if everyone could turn off their video, if they stop the video feed, that would be great too. So Adeline, if you have your question. I don't hear Adeline at all. Maybe if you would write it in the chat. If you have a question, you could write it in the chat area, and then I can ask on your behalf.
Okay. Rob, can you still hear me?
I can still hear you. Aaron, you can keep your video on.
Okay.
All right, you can continue, and then if I see the question or any questions, oh, it says, how long do you stay in the water?
So when we're doing the camera dives, they're typically between an hour and a half long. And if we're doing a full camera maintenance day, we'll probably be underwater for 4 or 5 hours. It's an 18-hour day to get out there and back and do the work that we need to do.
Wow. And then, so if you're underwater for 4 to 5 hours, the air is coming from the surface, or you're wearing tanks?
No, we do it with tanks. One of the challenges that we have out at this location is that it's tidal. So even though we're pretty far from shore, because the tower itself sits on a high spot, the tidal currents out in the ocean run across 4 times a day at pretty high speed. So surface air, there's too much drag for us to use surface air supply, so we have to use tanks.
Yeah. And then safety stops. Maybe you could talk about safety stops.
Sure.
and why you need to stop at a certain depth for X amount of time.
Yeah, sure. So part of the sort of safety factor of scuba diving, when you breathe compressed air for any length of time underwater, you have to, as you rise back toward the surface, you have to come up pretty slowly. So one of the things that we do to help reduce risk for the divers that are doing this work is we ascend very slowly. So after you've been underwater for an hour plus, even though it's only 50 feet to get to the surface, we take about 10 minutes to rise up through that water depth. We stop along the way. We stop about every 10 feet for a minute or two, with the length of time that we're spending kind of increasing as you get closer and closer to the surface. So we have to account for all of that in our air supply. All the divers that participate, we wear 2 tanks, so that we've got plenty of air and we never, get close to the margins of running out of air. 50 feet in terms of scuba diving is pretty shallow, but the lengths of time that we spend underwater is fairly long. So.
Yeah, and Itzel, you'll remember this. What happened when, with the soda bottle, when we opened up the soda bottle and agitated it beforehand? What happened to you?
Right. So we don't want that to happen to us. And so that's one of the reasons why we rise up so slowly. That helps get rid of the excess gas that's dissolved in our blood and tissues. So the slower you rise, it's sort of like letting the bottle sit on the table without being shaken as you rise up, if you do that nice and slow. So there's kind of 2 ways actually to get out to Frying Pan Tower. Once you're there, we usually go out by boat because we have to carry so much. Once you're there, if you need to go up and have a meeting, instead of a Zoom meeting, I actually get to go up on this chairlift, which is a lot of fun. This is a big heavy-duty winch, just winching us up off the boat and up to the living quarters of the tower.
What's the weight capacity of the winch?
I think that one is a 2,000-pound winch. We use it actually to move, heavy equipment up and down as well. The camera with the stand weighs about 300 pounds, and it lifts it no problem. It's also used to move steel and walkways and all kinds of equipment. The other way that we go out if we're not diving is we can go out by helicopter. So this is a view from the top of the tower. We fly out of the little Cape Fear heliport in Southport, and it's about a 25-minute helicopter ride out to the tower, fly over Bald Head Island, and then head out the shoals from there. So 25 minutes in a helicopter, 2.5 hours on the boat each way. Sorry, I just saw the comment from Cyrus. I was chuckling, get to the choppa. So one of the things that my students and I have done over the last several years with this project is develop a fish ID manual. I get new college students every semester in the project. Some of the ones that are here today have done it more than once, but basically over the last several years, we've developed this fish identification book that my students, but really anybody can have a copy of it, can use to help understand what they're seeing on camera. And in a few minutes, I can show you guys the YouTube channel that goes along with this. It's got video clips of all the different fish that we see on camera. And it's been really, really helpful for learning to identify we're over 100 species of fish. So learning to identify all the different fish that we see out there. I see I have a question from Jayla, and it says, how much does your equipment cost? So the cameras themselves are about $20,000, which is a lot of money. The data cable is another $10,000 to $15,000, plus all the time and equipment we need to install the camera and all the accessories that we need to do all that stuff. So it's not a cheap thing that we're doing offshore.
And what about the cost to maintain the dive equipment and boats and things like that, right? Fuel.
Oh yeah. I mean, The dive equipment per diver probably costs on the order of $2,000 to $2,500. You know, the boats that we're using, because we're operating pretty far offshore, all have 2 motors. Most of the boats are in the 26 to 32 foot range. You know, it's $1,000 in fuel to go out and back. So it's, yeah, it does cost.
$1,000 in fuel to go out and back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy, right? I think what I want to do at this point, if that's okay so far, is just kind of tell you guys a little bit about what's some of the fish that we've seen so far. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds good, Aaron. Yep.
Okay. So one of the neat things that we've seen that I didn't really expect is that we've seen a lot more shark species than I expected on camera. We've got 2 common sharks. The sandbar shark, which is the one that's in this upper right-hand corner here, is kind of our summertime shark. These are 6 to 8 feet long and about 100 pounds a piece. And then we have a wintertime shark, which I'll have a picture of here in just a second. Sorry, I'll have to run forward and find it. But and that's, so our wintertime shark is the sand tiger shark. Those tend to be on the range of 7 to 9 feet or so and about 200 pounds. But we've also seen some of the more fun or scary types of sharks like hammerheads. We had a great white visit to camera last winter. Bull sharks, tigers, lemon sharks, nurse sharks. So a lot of different species of sharks, which is pretty exciting to get to see on camera. And I'll show you guys some videos of those if you want to see what they look like from the camera itself. And then over 100 different species of fish. So we've seen lots and lots of tropical fish. Big grouper, like if you can see this over here, this is on the right side underneath the shark is a Goliath grouper, which get over 500 pounds. So we see a lot of variety or a lot of diversity of different fish species out of Frying Pan.
So Aaron,
Yes.
so who counts these the fish? I mean, is it Cole and is it
Yep.
Sydney, whoever is on your team? And
Yeah, exactly. So we've got today at least Cole, Sydney, and Carly are here. There may be others that have joined. So every semester I'll have 8 to 10 students that watch video, and they're responsible for recording the data on what fish are present and how many of them are there. So the students, we have a kind of standardized protocol that we use that's described a little bit here. Standardized protocol that the students use to identify and count the fish that are present. We do that in a 20-minute video increment. So essentially the students will watch 20 minutes of video, identify and count all the fish that are present. And then over time, we put all that information into a big database. And then we can take that information from the database and start to develop a number of different kind of ecological graphs and things like that that allow us to understand what the fish are doing and how they change over a year. I'll run forward in the slides here to here. And this is the type of things we can do with this data. So what's being shown in the graph for the students is we have months across the x-axis, across the bottom, and then how frequently would we expect to see that fish during that month. There's also temperature data included here. And so over time, we can develop a picture of when are different fish present, and then how abundant are they during those
how many hours or days worth of video do you still need to go through?
That's a bit of an open question in the sense that, you know, we have way more video than we could ever analyze. If you think about 12 hours or so of daylight per day, 365 days a year, we can never look at all of it. So we've analyzed a little over 1,100 20-minute increments. I haven't done the math, but that's lots of hours. And we're getting to the point where, in terms of our data collection, where we're not really discovering new species very frequently, which suggests that we've, just about captured, at least with our sampling protocol, captured the diversity of what's there. And now one of the things that I have the students kind of focused on at this point is trying to fill in where we have less videos during a month than we might have for other months. So certain months, we tend to have less data, either because the camera's down more frequently, like it often is in March and April, or because like during the summer, the visibility tends to be pretty good. So we have a lot of data from the summer months and less data from especially the winter and spring. So I'm trying to kind of equalize the data collection effort across months. And I think once we kind of have that more or less in hand, we'll be close to done.
Cool. Well, I have an army of young scientists that can help out with that as well. And then
Cool.
Sean, are you there? Or hello, Seaborn? Anyway, we've started some deep learning stuff, or even Angie, you might want to, you and Seaborn might want to dabble around with some deep learning AI stuff with Python and see if you can start identifying the sharks and fish on the videos.
Mm-hmm.
We can play around with that. Yeah.
Yeah, an automated system would be kind of, well, it would certainly speed things up for us. For certain species, I could definitely see that working. A lot of the kind of learning to identify the fish is almost an art. I can even picture some of my students rolling their eyes right now, that it takes a lot of practice to be able to identify, in real moving time, a lot of these different species, because we're talking about size ranges from fish that are 2 inches long to fish that are 10 feet long. And so for the small stuff, it really takes a lot of practice to get good at identifying what's out
there. Joe's good at identifying plankton, right, Joe? He did a little freshwater copepod project, and he loved every minute of it.
Cool.
It wasn't fun at all.
Yeah, my kids are pretty good at it too. They're 11 and 9, and they've grown up with seeing these videos, so they're pretty good at it. But it takes practice for sure. So do you all want me to switch over to some video?
Yes, that would be great. You can unmute and say yes if you want at this point.
Yes.
Yes. Hello? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been really weird, so a lot of times my stuff doesn't work. So I'm trying to fix that.
So I'm going to switch over to a video here. Bear with me while I figure out. There we go. Can you all see that video?
Yep.
All right. So this is what it would be like to be out there. Right now, most of the fish that we're seeing on screen are a small planktivorous species called round scad. That's the long, silvery, thin fish. There are hundreds and hundreds of them in the view right now. And then you can see the more colorful, the yellow Spanish hogfish was the one that just looked in the camera. And in the background, I saw looks like a queen or a blue angelfish, which are more tropical coral reef fishes than cool or temperate water fish. So we just have this huge diversity. As Dr. Rob mentioned earlier, North Carolina is kind of a transition zone in terms of ecosystems. And so we have a mixture of fish from tropical places like the Caribbean and more temperate waters like Virginia, Maryland, and points farther north. So it makes for a really diverse fish community. Students coming on screen on the right, you can see the back end of a barracuda. This is a predatory species, that long, thin body. is often for an ambush or an acceleration style predator. And if that fish were to come up close to the camera and grin at us, we'd see that it's got gigantic teeth. So
have you ever seen them, ever eaten one?
Have I eaten barracuda or have I seen them eat?
Or actually both, yeah.
Yeah, so both. We eat barracuda in the islands when I'm down there. And then we occasionally will get a predation, a view of a predation opportunity on camera. It's not as common as you might guess to catch on camera.
And I think Sammy and Lily have a question.
Okay.
School? Wait, is that a school behind the big? That school fish behind the big little line? I think it's on my Bobby. That big school of fish.
Yeah, so that group of fish that you're seeing that's swimming all over the place is a big school of scad. Those actually may be big eye scad. Yeah, they are. They tend to cluster closely together like that for protection from their predators. If we watch here for a few minutes, we'll probably see some of their predators moving around. And often when the fish kind of startle or move in a group really quickly, that's an indication that there was a predator, whether we saw it or not. A predator was trying to eat one of them out of the school.
Aaron,
So
if
fish,
you didn't have a camera, how would
the
you...
buddy system.
Sorry. If you didn't have a camera, how would you count those fish?
There are some other ways that you can do sort of fish counting or relative abundance estimates without a camera, but they're all fairly high tech. I mean, one of them is to use sound energy, so a sonar type system to give you school density estimates. We haven't done that type of work ourselves, but for me at least, the visual aspect of the camera is just so exciting. I mean, look at what's going on right now. Tens of thousands of fish, and there are the predators.
Thumbs up if you thought that was cool.
So this predatory fish that's also in a school is called a blue runner. Sorry, and blue runner are about the size of your leg. So each of those fish is about 10 pounds or so, and they eat those smaller schooling fish, the scad that we saw on camera before.
Question from Jayla is, will the camera work at night?
So it does work at night. Early on in the project, we actually had a big light that would turn on at dusk and would illuminate, an area around the camera, and we got some nighttime footage. The problem with that is that if you shine a big light underwater at night, it very rapidly attracts lots and lots of plankton. And so within a few minutes, typically of the light turning on, all we would see were swarms of plankton. So the light really modified the behavior of the animals that lived there. It was also energy intensive. We weren't getting solar power at night. And so the light would drain the batteries over the nighttime. So we just finally decided it was better if we just turned it off and stuck to daytime estimates.
They're the predator fish right there, yes?
Yep, blue runners.
Do you have a favorite fish?
Oh, I don't know if I have a favorite exactly, but I like the really odd ones. The unusual fish that we see rarely. So we've got trumpet fish that we see sometimes. Some of the cowfish are really unusual. They're shaped triangular. The sharks, of course, are exciting. So that's a sandbar shark that's on camera now. Any of my students, do you have a favorite?
Not really. I just like watching all of them, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that this project really highlights is how diverse the animals are that live out there. I mean, on screen now, There are at least 5 different species of fish, whether you recognize them or not. In the background, the sort of medium-sized fish are called vermilions. Almaco jacks, round scad, there's a barracuda, and it just changes second to second. So it's really, really amazing.
I like the goblin sharks.
Yeah, goblin sharks are really cool. We've never seen a goblin shark on camera, and we probably won't because it's a deep water species. But I get asked about that one sometimes when I go to give presentations at the elementary school, and it's such a neat animal.
I see them in the books.
Yes.
I do not like cookie cutter, so I'm posting pictures.
Test.
Hello.
Hammerheads rule.
So we had a hammerhead on camera not that long ago that came up. It was after we did a camera installation back in October, and within, I think, a week or so, we had a big hammerhead swim up to the camera. What was really neat about that is, if you know anything about hammerheads, one of the adaptations that they have is that they're really good at sensing electrical energy, which is how they find their prey. Well, the camera emits quite a bit of electrical energy because of the power. And the hammerhead shark swam up to the camera and shook its head back and forth like it was irritated or maybe confused by the presence of the camera. And it spun around a couple times, came into the camera, shook its head, and then swam away, and we didn't see it again after that.
That's cool stuff. Do you have videos of sharks or
Yeah.
or turtles? Do you see many turtles on your?
We do see turtles. We have one that we see fairly commonly. That's the loggerhead. And then this year, for the first time, we had a green sea turtle, which aren't that common in our region. There are some, but not nearly as common as loggerheads. And we got a green turtle on camera. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and switch over to YouTube. And on YouTube, I can kind of show you guys really anything that we've seen from the YouTube channel, because I've got it all organized here. So let me share the YouTube channel with you guys. And if you want to call out a fish or a shark, we can easily look it up. You want to see a turtle?
Yes, definitely turtle.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
Aaron, I've forwarded the fish identification guide that that you put together, and you can go to many of the images in that document and click the picture, and it'll take you to these YouTube videos. Correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's awesome. We should run a
So
poll,
here's,
like a favorite fish poll, like which is the best video. That'd be fun.
You see the turtle in the background?
Yeah.
So a lot of times the turtles don't hang around very long.
I don't see a turtle.
No, I don't see the turtle.
It swam off screen. Here's a better view.
Oh, I see that one.
Oh yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
me too. It's cool. Me too.
So one of the neat things we see as divers is that the turtles will sleep on the bottom under the ledge. So as a diver, as you're just swimming along, sometimes you'll come up and you'll see the back end of a turtle sticking out from underneath the rock. We try not to disturb them when they're sleeping like that, because they could, if kind of like you, if you get woken up suddenly, you might startle, and the turtle can actually bang into the rocks or even you. So we tend to try and leave them alone when they're sleeping on the bottom.
What's up there? What's on the top?
That's a barracuda. So that fish is about as long as you are.
I'm only 8.
I know. I can tell. I have a 9-year-old.
I'm 7.
And you're 7? Cool.
Lily, you're 7? I thought you were 15.
Here comes a turtle.
So
That's
Aaron,
massive.
Yeah.
there's lots of stuff growing on the pylons there.
Mm-hmm.
Are they animals, plants? What are
It's
those?
a mixture. So most of what we're seeing there is animals. So there are hydroids, which are like mini sea anemones. The more kind of globular looking things are tunicates and sponges. We do get quite a diversity of seaweeds or macroalgae that grow on the bottoms out there as well. But most of what you're seeing on the pipe is animal life.
There's also a lot of debris on the seafloor there, like grates
Yes.
and what are they, car tires or something, or what are those?
There's not any tires out there, but most of that debris is old steel that's come off the tower. So the tower is about 60 years old or so, and you can imagine it's all made out of steel. In a marine habitat like this, steel rusts pretty quickly, and big chunks of the tower over the years have either been dropped on purpose off the tower or been fallen off during storms and things like that. So the bottom is just littered, especially after the last 2 hurricanes. There's a lot of steel grating and pipes and things like that that are out there that now is new habitat.
But it's safe to be on, right?
Yeah, so it's the steel itself is just inert, basically it's not leaking any toxic chemicals or anything. So in the end, it adds to the hard bottom habitat that's out there. You guys want to see a shark?
A great white shark, if you have one.
Okay, I have a couple of hazy videos of great whites. So we've only ever seen a great white on camera twice, and it was both times on the same day, and it was not good visibility. So you're gonna have to watch closely to see the great white in this video. Are you seeing it?
Yes?
Can't see it.
So one of the other things that, I'll rewind the video. One of the other things that we do is we have a tool or a piece of equipment out there called an acoustic receiver. And the acoustic receiver picks up tags that scientists put on large animals like sharks and can detect the presence of them based on these tags that they have. And we have an acoustic receiver there that has picked up, I think last time I checked, 6 different great white sharks near our camera, but we've only ever seen them on camera 1 time.
Do you have any hammerheads?
We do. You want to see that next?
Yes.
Okay.
And then also, Aaron.
Oh, those are big,
Oh, sorry.
really big fish.
Yeah, those are called Bermuda chub, and they are a tropical fish. So it's hard to see, but in the background, there's a great white.
Oh yeah.
Looks like an airplane.
The physics is the same, really.
Yes, it is. So I will pull up a hammerhead video. That's a popular one. They're really beautiful.
There's a question from Zeta, and she wants to know, have you ever seen a turtle hatchling?
We haven't. So little turtles, not that much is known about them. They're obviously hatch out on the beaches and then they make their way offshore. We have never seen a really little one. The green turtle we saw this year or late last year was juvenile. So it was reasonably small, about a foot across, which is pretty small for a sea turtle, but we've never seen a baby.
Did you know that the sea turtles follow the light of the moon?
Yeah, isn't that cool? So in this video, we'll see a hammerhead. See it coming on screen now?
So what is that? There's some fish hanging off it, Aaron. What are those? Maybe.
I know. they are the fish that have they clean the shark teeth
Yeah, so
or the body.
that's right. There are a bunch of different species of what are called remora. And remoras are kind of a sucker fish is another common name for them. They often attach to larger creatures like sharks and follow them around. They get little tidbits of food and they get a free ride. As a diver, I've had remoras attached to me too. It's kind of irritating.
What does it feel like?
So the disc, the attachment disc is actually super rough. It feels like sandpaper, and the when it's on your bare skin, it actually hurts.
Do the sharks notice it?
I think they do. Sometimes we see, especially when the remora first attach, it's almost like an itch. The shark will kind of shimmy a little bit.
Do the sharks itch? Do the sharks actually itch it?
Can you say that again?
Do the sharks actually scratch when they attach to?
Sometimes, so they don't have hands, right? So one of the things that we see the fish do sometimes is they'll rub against something else. So they'll rub against the tower. They've even rubbed against the camera to try and scratch an itch is what I always assume they're doing.
Defend their hand.
What was that?
Defends their hand.
I missed that myself. Could one more time?
I defend their hand.
Oh, are the fins their hands? So evolutionarily, yes. So their fins, obviously having fins in the water is really helpful, but their fins are equivalent or homologous, we say, to the hands of things like mammals and reptiles.
Layla would like to know if you've ever tagged a shark.
I have. So I haven't tagged any of the big ones that we see out at Frying Pan Tower, but I've done some tagging work in Chesapeake Bay and down in Charleston.
And then do you have, we were talking at the start about lionfish and how invasive they are. And do you have any video of the lionfish out there? Are there many? Are there many out there, or?
That, you know, it's interesting. There are lots of lionfish in the area, but not at the tower itself. And my guess about that is that it's just a little bit too shallow at Frying Pan Tower for it to be preferred habitat for lionfish. But within a few miles, we see densities of lionfish that are among some of the highest in the world. North Carolina has a lot of lionfish. Right at the tower itself, we rarely see them. The videos I have of them are pretty bad. The lionfish themselves are not that big, so the videos we have of them really aren't very good view. I do have some lionfish video from the Caribbean though that I could show you if you want to see it.
Yeah, sure. Are there any more? Let's pick one more animal from Frying Pan Tower. The first suggestion on chat, and then maybe we could look at the lionfish quickly, and then we should let you go and attend to your family, Aaron.
Okay, sounds good.
While I wait for a suggestion in the chat, there's a question from Seaborn. How do you get the money for all of the equipment?
Oh, good question. So there's a foundation called the Annenberg Foundation, and they fund a project called explore.org. And what Explore is interested in doing is showing people, anybody, you, me, anybody, the natural world. So Explore funds projects like this to install cameras around the world. Some of them, like ours, are out in the wild. Some of them are in zoos. And they've got on the Shark Cam website, there are hundreds of other cameras you can check out. If you want to see bears in Alaska or tigers in a zoo, all those cameras are archived at the same place. They also have a lot of bird cameras, which are like a eagle nest cam or hummingbird cam, where you can see all different kinds of animals live on explore.org. So they fund this work.
Okay, no one suggests anything, so I'm going to say any jellyfish.
So yes, and you'll be disappointed, Rob.
Uh-oh.
I'll pull it up, and you can tell me what it is. I think I know, but
I'll see if my young scientists can get this one too.
okay. It's not a good video, I have to warn you. I'll pull it up here.
And I'll put the link to the YouTube channel up on the website so everyone can.
Okay.
Oh, I see it. I see it. All right, who knows what that is?
Moon jellyfish.
Moon jellyfish. Very good.
Yeah.
I don't see anything.
It's a jelly. It's not a jelly. It's not a fish. It's just called a jelly, not a fish.
Oh, I see it now.
Right there.
Right.
The moon jelly.
The video is misnamed slightly. We have one,
I was at a workshop once and we spent a day and a half discussing the correct terminology of whether we should say jellyfish or sea jellies.
yeah. So one of the kind of neat things about this is that this project is that anybody can contribute to it. So I get videos and images from students like you guys to retired people that help me with this project. So when you go to Shark Cam and watch Shark Cam, if you see something really interesting, there's a chat associated with Shark Cam. And essentially, if you see something neat, you can ask a question about it. So we've got thousands of people around the world that help contribute pictures and videos and just information about what we're seeing on a daily basis. And really, they're like citizen scientists, the people that help us with this. So,
Right. So maybe just so we can wrap it up here, maybe if it's easy access to look at the lionfish.
mhm.
There's such thing as lionfish?
Yeah. So this is a video. Let me give you all a warning here. So we're harvesting lionfish in this video. So we have to, the way we harvest them is with spears.
What is harvesting?
For food.
Oh my God, I love this.
Somehow I knew that you would say that, Angie. Somehow I knew.
I'm sorry, I just do.
Okay. Adeline, also check your chat message.
I have a question.
Okay.
Do you how often can sharks get splinters?
Do sharks get splinters?
Yes.
Well, there's not really any wood underwater, so I don't know if they do. I mean, it's certainly possible.
Can they get cuts? Because like oysters are very sharp, and
Yeah.
there's lots of oysters all around. They can like bump in, like fighting. They bump in, they can fall down, and like.
Yeah, so we actually do see a lot of fish that have wounds. Usually I think the wounds are from somebody else tried to eat them, but they were able to escape. Unlike mammals, fish can sustain a lot more body damage and be fine than mammals can. And so we often see fish that are, have injuries, but they heal from them. much more effectively than we do.
I subscribe to your channel. It's a really good channel.
Oh, thank you. That's great.
You have now 56 subscribers.
That's awesome, Aaron. I think we have 8.
Thanks. My kids seem to
I
think that's a
can't
lot
like
too.
or subscribe. I cannot like or subscribe on my tablet.
Yeah, that's okay. So one of the things that we do with all these lionfish is we eat them. They're not supposed to be here. And oh, this is a neat video that I took several years ago that has some lionfish. Can y'all still see this?
No.
Wait, are they poisonous?
No, we can't see that, Aaron.
Yeah, we can't see it anymore.
Let me.
Are they poisonous?
So they're not poisonous, but they are venomous. You know the difference?
Nope.
Here we go.
All right. So venomous means that they can deliver venom, which is dangerous delivered to. Poisonous means that it's not safe to eat. So lionfish are venomous, but not poisonous. Can y'all see this now?
Yep. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yep.
So this is off of Cape Fear.
Is the spear the little gun thingy?
Yeah, so the spear there has a camera mounted on it. We use the spear gun to harvest fish that we need to get samples from. And here's a lionfish.
I see it.
Yep. So that's the hard bottom habitat I was talking about earlier, that rock. Lots of different plants and animals live attached to that.
So, Aaron, do you know of any restaurants that serve lionfish?
Yeah, so there's a number in the Wilmington area and in Charleston that will serve lionfish when they can get it. The problem is that the lionfish we have, and we have lots of them here off the coast, but they're really far offshore. So economically, it's pretty hard to harvest them in a way that can assure a steady supply. That's less true in the Caribbean, where access to lionfish habitats essentially right off the shore. So you do find lionfish on the menu frequently in the Caribbean, but less so locally, just because it's so expensive to get out there and be able to harvest them. And there are other fish out there that we can make more money off of.
That looks scary when the spirit went right straight to the lionfish. It looks fast and it popped out of nowhere.
Yeah, so you see that we're using 2 different types of spears. For the lionfish, we don't have to use the big spear. We can use a small handheld one called a pole spear. But for bigger fish that are stronger or faster, we use that larger gun.
There's a hydroid, Aaron. There's a good close-up
Yep.
of the hydroid.
Have you ever eaten pufferfish?
I have, yeah. There's a local one that I really like. It's called a southern puffer, and they're not poisonous, unlike the Japanese tiger puffer.
Yeah, because I know those are really dangerous to eat if you do it wrong.
Yeah. I've never eaten the fugu, the tiger puffer, before, though. Here's a turtle.
In Minecraft, the puffer fishes, if you get they blow up, if you go near them, you get poison effects, and if you eat them, you will die immediately in Minecraft.
Yeah. My kids know to avoid those in Minecraft.
Yeah, it's like, even trying it in VR, it's very scary.
Man,
Last question here. So what is that growing on the back of the turtle there?
So can you see my pointer?
Barnacles.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so barnacles grow on the shell of turtles. These are actually a specific species of barnacle that only grows on the shells of turtles. Kind of an interesting example of symbiosis. Do you guys know about symbiosis?
I've heard of it.
Yeah. So this is an association. Symbiosis means association between life forms. And that particular barnacle only lives on turtles.
Well,
What
excellent,
type
Aaron.
of barnacle is that?
The scientific name of it, I don't know actually. Chelonabia, I think, but
It is something like that.
yeah. And it's we call them the turtle barnacle, just to keep it simple.
Cool. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for your talk today. If you want to,
You're welcome.
yeah,
It was fun.
and this has been brilliant. And I think Adeline wanted to say a few words.
All right. I'm not hearing her. Are you?
I think she's trying to type.
This is Adeline's mom. She's having trouble with her computer today. She was saying thank you.
Oh yeah, of course. I'm glad she could make it.
My sister asked what are barnacles? My sister asked what are barnacles?
Your sister asked what barnacles are. So barnacles are crustaceans. They don't look like crustaceans. When you think of crustacean animals, they're things like crabs and shrimp and lobster, but barnacles are actually crustaceans too. They just live attached to other things, and they filter feed plankton out of the water.
Well, I want to thank you again, Aaron, for everything. Yeah, Adeline says thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to thank your students for joining us today. Cole, Sydney, I forget who else was.
Carly.
Thanks for joining. And look, they're welcome back anytime. As you and your get the boys online with these as well.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got some cool stuff coming up.
Yeah, there is some cool stuff coming up, and I'm excited. So everyone can unmute their microphones, and a big round of applause for Dr. Aaron.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
All right. It was fun chatting with y'all.
Yeah. Stay healthy, everyone.
Rob.